SSI has really made me feel just incredibly connected with the individuals that make up so many of the disadvantaged populations that surround us. I think SSI does a really good job of personifying these labeled cultures that we so often disconnect ourselves from. It's so easy just to look at a labeled culture or a specific demographic on paper and fail to see the individual's faces. But I think SSI has really forced me to acknowledge those faces.
I learned this summer just how ostracized a certain group of people was. I deal with people who are returning from prison, and I've learned that the system really fails them and that it's our job and our responsibility to take care of them, to hire them, and to make it so their lives are easier.
Because of SSI, I have formed a more clear, critical lens on how to look at society based off of our discussions about justice. I've also gained many new skills from my job that'll be applicable to my career as an OT.
I think the biggest thing that I learned is that we all really need to listen to each other more and try to understand each other's differences. I think from being in community especially, it was hard at first to kind of figure out, everyone's personalities and see how everyone is on a day-to-day basis, but even like working with social justice issues, I think it's important to understand everyone's background and where they're coming from.
Is that one person sees yellow and another person sees blue, and like if I see blue, I'll never see yellow, or the person that sees yellow will never see blue. But I think that something that I've taken away from this summer is the process of seeing green, and just like getting to that point where you don't get frustrated with how they see the world, but try to understand it rather than getting angry.
This summer, I had the honor of working at Cincinnati Recreation Commission, and I think that has taught me the greatest lesson. It was definitely a very challenging site for me. I definitely was pushed out of my comfort zone, but it was good because it really taught me the lesson of looking at the person and really seeing them and not the disability or not the stigma. So really using that people first language just has really opened my eyes to seeing the human being for the human and not what society tries to peg them as.
What I'll take away from this experience is definitely that it's often really hard to do service work without a supportive community behind you. And that was graciously given to all of us this summer, and it's been just phenomenal to have people who know exactly how hard your work is, and they are going through similar difficult work that just weighs on your heart, and to be able to share that with 19 of my peers has been amazing.
Working at the Center for Holocaust and Humanity Education, that really shouldn't be very stereotypical with people. I know everybody gets their predetermined judgments of other people, but it's really important to try and put those aside and really get to know a person for who they are and for what they believe and what they stand for.
I think that my one takeaway from this summer has to be that regardless of how frustrating things are or how hopeless we feel about things, that even though Rome wasn't built in a day, it was still built eventually. And as long as we remember that and don't lose hope, which everyone in the community has made me, even though I question everything that we do and I feel like I've been lost some of the way, that I still have hope for what we're doing and there's more people out there like us to help build Rome.
SSI has really taught me when I'm looking at an issue to not just look at it and say, okay, and go along with the majority. It's really taught me how to think critically and dig deeper into an issue and really look at it and challenge and see if it fits with my morals and my values and what I stand for. In addition, SSI really taught me how to be present with other people, and it's allowed me to really cherish my relationships and my time.
At the beginning of summer, I really didn't understand how important vulnerability would be in community. I put up my wall firsthand. I didn't want to let anybody in. Being in community, I've found that vulnerability is probably one of the things that has kept me really in loop with others in community, and I feel like it's made our bond so much stronger.
And I feel like I can take that from learning it this summer and transfer it to all different relationships in my life.
I learned from SSI a lot about what it is to support someone, both in the sense of how I took support from other people and how I had to learn to support others. And I received that in a lot of ways, especially from Caracol. They kept pushing me in the right direction, telling me what the real world's like, and then in community they really supported me through a lot of hard times and stuff.
Something that I've learned in Summer Service Internship is the importance of communication, whether that be at my site working with refugees and trying to get them medical appointments and pick them up and drive them different places, or in the community that we live in. Miscommunication is at the root of many problems in our world.
I think that the biggest thing that I learned over this summer has really been how to fit the puzzle pieces together within all these different issues that I've always had slight interest in everything, but to tie it all together into one big human issue for me, and learning how to tie those things together and realize how everything's connected. And also I've learned how to make a deep overall argument as opposed to just falling back on an emotional argument or feeling with social justice, or a faith-based argument with social justice, but more to have the deep, hard facts, overarching big picture argument, and really deep into the rooted issues of things to be able to make that valid in conversations that I have, rather than just being purely emotional about it.
One thing that I've learned this summer is definitely not to take everything to heart that a client or someone you're working with might say to you. A lot of times it seems like their frustration is being taken out on you particularly, but when you take into account the amount of stressors they're dealing with outside of work or your place of employment, they may just be venting all of that onto you because you seem like the easiest target. So the best thing to do in that situation is try to understand where they're coming from and not to judge their situation.
I think what I really learned is the value of community, both from working at St. Vincent de Paul and in interacting with the SSI community. I've just really learned the value of personal interactions and just making that connection with other people. I think that it really goes far, especially in this line of work where we're working for change in our world.
One thing that I've learned from SSI this summer is adaptability. And I would say that I learned adaptability because sometimes, I've learned in life that we'll be placed in situations where we may feel uncomfortable. And I've learned that you have to learn how to grow through that and push through that uncomfortable feeling.
I've learned a lot about what I care about, such as food. I've learned a lot about the world around me. In all sorts of different ways, all sorts of different angles I never thought of, because we have so many people here with so many new perspectives from my own. I've learned how to take care of myself, like cooking most of my own meals, which I've loved doing. I've learned how to live with and get to know a lot of new people and enjoy it.
I think I've learned that a lot of our larger scale problems can be reduced, not in a simplistic way, but in a general way, to people not taking ownership. Our environment, our society, our systems get seen as disposable because people don't take ownership. People don't take ownership of their words, of their actions, of the things they do in their daily interactions. I don't think that technology helps this in any way. I think that technology makes it a lot easier to put less thought into things we do. And though things we say and things we do may still have the same impact on others that they would have otherwise, we're putting less of ourselves into them, and that lack of ownership leads to communication and to actions that are disingenuous on our part but are perceived as genuine.
People with disabilities are still able, just because society kind of categorizes all of them and puts them away as not able or dependent on other people, doesn't mean that they can't do anything. They still are insanely able and can do a lot of things, even though it may not be what everyone else can do. The other thing I learned is that change is possible. I used to not think world change could be possible, but I may not be able to do it individually, but people banding together and working with each other over a long period of time, I do think that the world can change.